Hello, my name is William from 222 Productions, and man, it has been really hot this past week here. Around most of the country, I think it's safe to say it's been pretty warm. Just really hot. I even, when I went to the pool, it was a warm pool because that's how hot it was. It wasn't even like that cool. It wasn't even that refreshing. So it was tough. So I just want to know, let me know in the comments below, what's your favorite way to beat the heat? And if you could somehow add a ninja twist to the answer, I'll give you bonus points. I read everyone's responses. I think some of them that you've been giving me in terms of celebrities and boy bands have been pretty cool. So let's keep this going right now. So with that said, hello everyone. My name is William from 222 Productions, and I am here to talk to you about the American Ninja Warrior Season 11 Atlanta Finals in approximately 20 minutes or less, starting right now. So, last time I talked about Atlanta for the Atlanta qualifier rounds, I talked about how I just didn't like the episode. All the Secret Life of Pets stuff and the editing in general, I just found very bad. And I was hard on some of the obstacles as well. I will say that this particular episode was a lot better. I enjoyed it a lot more overall. Still have some issues that I will talk about. Some that I'm reiterating because I will not stop complaining. And other stuff like that. So let's just go through. Let's go through the episode and the course and stuff. So one thing that's interesting, one thing I just want to mention is that I had some pretty heavy rainfall during the show, and so I actually missed the very beginning because of a special NBC News weather report, and the weather was kind of messing with the signal. I missed a portion of Ryan's run, unfortunately, but I was able to kind of go back and watch some of that. So it's a bit of a weird viewing experience at first, because like there was a portion during Ryan's run where everything just froze for a while, and then he warped from the 8th obstacle to the 10th obstacle. So, but of course we had the shrinking steps, the return of off the hook, the return of block run, the bouncing spider, which I still maintain I don't like. It's a hodgepodge obstacle and not a particularly fun one to watch. Ferris Wheel, I think I might have been sour on the editing of the show in the last time. Looking back, I think like I was too hard on the Ferris Wheel. Watching it more, I like the obstacle now. I gotta say, I've grown to like it. I like it more. I like the idea that you can go up or you can go down. There's two different paths to victory, and it's really hard to like skip everything because of the whole turning aspect of it, which is really really great. I really like that aspect of it. So yeah, I've grown to like the Ferris wheel a lot more. Maybe like once again, maybe I would have different handles, but that's just me. And then of course the warped wall for the first half. And one thing I noticed is that there's not a lot of. I don't think anything was nerfed. Nothing was obviously nerfed. At least to me, it didn't seem that way. Then, of course, we had the Salmon Ladder and a new obstacle called Up for Grabs. I really like this obstacle. So from the Salmon Ladder, you go to a stationary lache bar. You have to swing, and then you have to grab a bar midair. Basically, this bar is attached by magnets. It's by magnetism, so the slightest touch will cause it to fall off. So you got to grab it and then hold on to it and catch yourself in a cradle. Get the bar in a cradle. It'll catch on, and you got to absorb the landing. And what's interesting is that not the entire cradle is padded. There's like this gap where there's no padding, and that seems to be where you will hit the hardest if you're not careful. I feel like, I don't remember off the top of my head which ones specifically, but I remember there being some runs where it seems like people like landed directly into that gap. It was and that caused them to fall, but you have to do it twice. And then you have the return of Fallout, And if you remember from last year, really didn't care for Fallout at all. I was especially annoyed at the connection to Mission Impossible Fallout last year. But now there's no Mission Impossible connection. I still don't care for the obstacle because, like I said, it's a hodgepodge obstacle. It's just a mix of stuff. I think it actually would be better if you had multiple spinning discs, maybe 2 or 3 spinning discs. The having to catch the first 2 holds like this is cool enough, but I think the real part of the real obstacle is the spinning part. And the fact there's only one spinning part, because the second disc, it just shifts left and right. It doesn't spin. I think it's a real missed potential. And also, it feels like the back half of the course is, I would say, a speed course. It's a lot faster than your typical back half of the course, because up for grabs is swing, catch, grab, land, transfer, swing, catch, grab, land. You're done. And then Fallout is boom, 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 boom. It's five moves, I guess, technically, because catch, dismount. Yeah, so it's four catches and a dismount, basically. And so you can do that section. You can do the back half pretty quickly. And then, of course, you finish with the spider trap. So one thing that they mentioned right away, relatively early, I should say, is that it rained. They acknowledged that it rained earlier in the taping. And bringing this up, I think it's interesting for a few reasons. Because one, I mentioned in the past how it obviously rained in LA, especially the LA qualifiers. It was obviously raining, but they didn't bring attention to it. And in the case of Atlanta, I think the main reason they brought up the rain is because it is super obvious that the rain had a negative effect on the course. Between block run, the bouncing spider, and the spider trap, it was very obvious that the rain played a factor. You especially see it with the spider trap. You saw people slipping and all of that stuff. So it's interesting that they actually acknowledged it this time around, because I don't remember them acknowledging rain that often, unless they really felt necessary. And I guess in this case they felt necessary. So yeah, let's go through the runs, shall we? Let's go through some of the runs. They started Tyrone Poole, the NFL Super Bowl veteran. He ended up surprisingly going off the hook, even though he made it to the Ferris Wheel last time. He got a bad dismount off the first hook, and he just completely missed the second hook on the ring, off the hook. By the way, Team Chaos winning. I was on Team Chaos, so woo, hooray for Chaos. Then Josiah Singleton. This profile I feel like went a little long. It was cool seeing the small town country boy, small community all bringing together and stuff like that. It was cool, but I don't like it. Went a little too long. He ended up going out on Up for Grabs. I just want to really just reiterate, I really like Up for Grabs. I think that's a cool obstacle. I think using magnets is a really cool idea, and you can do a lot with that potentially. And so I would like to see more of that in the future, if possible. So then they showed Neil Craver, and they did a profile about how he got married, and it was at that point that I kind of realized that getting married, because for those of you who don't know, every year the ninjas have to come up with something new to mention in their application video. Essentially, hey, what new thing happened in your life this past year? Or technically less than a year when you really think about it. And it seems like marriage is one of those surefire things where it's like, okay, I can mention this once. I get a free pass this year going into to get onto the show. So yeah, he got married. Good for him. But it's weird because there are times where Matt will say something like, oh, they never failed to make it to Vegas, or they never failed a qualifier course, and I don't think anything of it. But for some reason, when Matt said it this time, he said they never failed to make it to Vegas, I just sort of thought, uh-oh. It's weird, because, like, I know they mention it, they've been mentioning it more times to make it less obvious that the opposite is going to happen, but this time, it felt like the opposite was going to happen. And he failed block run, and he landed hard on top of the blocks, and then he fell over. Unfortunately, he's out. He's not moving on to Vegas, and they mention, as a lot of people actually failed block run, that just the water really seemed to make that obstacle harder to complete. And then they had Caitlin Bergstrom, and they did a joint bio between her and her brother, Caleb. It was cool enough. She was able to get revenge on the bouncing spider, and she fought long and hard on going the bottom path of the Ferris wheel, and unfortunately she failed the dismount of the obstacle. She was just too low. She really needed to try to get up one more hold at least to get that dismount, because like I knew right away she wasn't making that jump, and I was right, unfortunately for her. But she's moving on. She actually went the furthest of all the women this time around. So unfortunately, not the best week for the women in the finals, but congratulations to her. She's moving on. So a few fast forwards. We finally got some fast forwards after 2 commercial breaks. I want to make sure I get this right. Kirill Rebkovitz failed off the hook. John DeLudo failed the block run, and Chad Hone failed the Ferris wheel. And then Devin Harrison, aka Dougie Fresh. This is the other thing that gets you a easy application bait for American Ninja Warrior, is you had a child, or in the case of Devin, he had 2 children. He had twin boys. That was basically what it was about. They did like a cute little thing where like the graphics couldn't tell them apart, so they were switching the name graphics. It's a cute little joke. I'm fine with that. He had a very close call on block run. And this was, I didn't realize this was the case, but they mentioned that he cleared the warped wall for the first time. It's like, oh yeah, looking back, that is true. See, good for him. Unfortunately, he failed up for grabs, and unfortunately for him, he didn't make it to the obstacle fast enough to move on. This was weird, because like, despite the fact that we had quite a few early falls, we also had a lot of people make it past the 8th obstacle. So very few people who made it to the 8th obstacle were in the top 12. And after him, we had a fast forward of Alyssa Barcelona, who failed the block run, and Glenn Davis, who I didn't write his name. What was it, 56? I think he is, owner of Ninja Quest. He got revenge on Ferris Wheel, but unfortunately couldn't make it up the warped wall. He just looked tired. He is not moving on. Then they did a profile on Kenny Nimatello with his whole kidney mission to help kids get kidneys. It was cool. It was cute. The kid that he's helping this time, I'm glad that he was able to help one of the kids that he sponsored last year to get a kidney. That was great. So the bouncing spider. What is up with this obstacle and hurting people? So what happened was he grabs the big pillar of the bouncing spider, and as he's getting his legs up and over, he kicks the smaller one. It swings and it hits him in the side of the head, and it knocked him a bit loopy. You can tell. I don't know if loopy is the right word, but like it did some damage to him, because he was taking a minute to like assess he was assessing something. He was like, oof, what's going on. He needed a minute. He needed a minute to recuperate. That looked like it sucked. What are those pillars made out of? And why is the bouncing spider still an obstacle after all this time? Just get rid of it. It's hurting people. It's not. I don't like it. Get rid of it. And this was the case where we got our real first look at just how wet it got. Because he tried going up the spider trap, and if memory serves me right, he just couldn't get those first walls up. He kept slipping, he kept struggling, and he just ended up going down and was out. But he is good enough to move on. So good for him. Good for you, Kenny. Made it back to Vegas. Eddie Stewart unfortunately failed block runs, so he's not making it to Vegas. I don't know if he's ever made it to Vegas. I'm sure if he has, someone will tell me off the top of my head. But Eddie Stewart's one of those guys where it's like, I want him to do better than he has been. I'm pulling for him. And Caleb Orr got fast-forwarded as the only person to fail Fallout. And then they did a whole feature on Kevin Carbone and how he's designing obstacles for people and courses for people and all that stuff, and how Ninja Warriors changed his life. I did an interview with Kevin. He's a great guy. I really like him. He's a great guy. What else is there to say? Kevin did a 360 up the warped wall. Basically, did like a 360 spin, like this. I don't have enough room to spin my chair. It's very cramped to try to get me in frame and all of this. But yeah, I did a 360 up the warped wall. It looked really cool. Normally, I'm against like showing off, but like I get why I did it. It's still a show, and it's hard to argue with the results when he still moved on to the power tower. Kevin, he just looked great. He just looked great up to that point. I noticed he was doing cross grip on up for grabs. I feel like that helped with that sort of obstacle. I feel like that is probably the better strategy, because with that sort of obstacle, you run the risk of peeling out more. And he looked good going up the spider trip. I was happy for him. That was his, I believe, his first regional finals clear, and that was great. I love seeing that. So happy for him. Then some more fast forwards. Emily Durham failed block run. Rue Yori failed up for grabs, unfortunately not good enough. And Casey Suhaki also failed up for grabs and barely made it to Vegas. I don't know if you noticed, Casey Suhaki had a knee brace. I mentioned last time that he injured his leg doing the show, doing the qualifier course. I guess he was cleared to continue. He was wearing like I wouldn't say knee brace. It was one of those compression sleeves, so to speak. And he was able to move on. And then we had Travis Rosen, and basically they did the replay of everything that's happened between Vegas and then the return. And Travis Rosen is a great guy, and he had me a little worried because he failed. The way he failed up for grabs was very interesting, because he makes the first one doing it straight, both hands facing the same direction, but he was a little shaky. And so for the second one, it looked like he thought that going switch would be better for him. And so he tries to switch grip, but he falls. And the good news is he is moving on, finishing just barely to move on, but he was great. It was great seeing him back. He's going to Vegas again. I don't think he's ever failed to move on to Midoriyama, if I remember correctly. So good on you, Travis, for continuing that trend. Since season 3, right? That's when he debuted. Hopefully I didn't get that wrong. Yeah. Let's see. More fast forwards. Ronald Washington failed up for grabs. And Travis Rust also failed up for grabs. And oh, interesting. Oh, okay. I just realized that I made a slight mistake in some of my notes, but what you gonna do? Ryan Stratis was the next person. This was a bit weird. They started him mid-run at the Ferris wheel, but then they showed that he was bleeding, so they showed a replay of him earlier on Block Run where he barely survived. He got a lot of like rug burn, I guess you would call it, or mat burn on his body. He ended up cutting part of his hand, tearing part of his hand, and so he was wiping the blood on his face. I guess he didn't want to put on his clothes, but it's like I wouldn't do that. Brian looked good, and he ended up clearing the whole thing once again. Gave out a big cry of victory, and this meant a lot to him doing it in Atlanta. He used to be from Georgia. He moved to Colorado recently, so a bit of a homecoming for him, and clearing the course in Atlanta meant you could tell it meant a lot to him. Plus, he won the Mega Wall again, so that's another $10,000. It's pretty good. He had a pretty good 2 days in Atlanta when he was competing. So good on you, Mr. Stratis. You did good. You did good. Then they did a fast forward of Grace Sims, who failed the bouncing spider, but she failed the actual spider part, and it was very clear that she slipped, probably because of wetness. And Brett Sims also cleared. He got fast forwarded again. And they mentioned the beard battle, and it seems kind of weird because, like, the whole point of the Battle of the Beards was that both of them would get featured, but unfortunately, only Ryan has benefited so far. It's not Ryan's fault, but poor Brett, he keeps getting fast forwarded or just skipped altogether. So that's unfortunate. Jodie Freedman, 19-year-old, 150 pounds. They did a whole thing about how he's small, but he got into rock climbing and all of that. He looked really good in the beginning. He did off the hook in one motion, basically, shoot, boop, boop, woo, looked really good, and then just zoomed across Block Run like it was no big deal. Holy cow. He looked good doing that. And then we had, then he just looked good on the course, and ended up failing, the spider trap. Probably he slipped off, probably because of the water, once again. But yeah, impressive run. Moving on to Vegas, good for him. Jessica Clayton got a feature talking about how she's in the National Guard, and she ended up going out on the bouncing spider, surprisingly, and she was looking all dejected. But then Zuri gave her the good news. She's moving on to Vegas, and all of her family and friends were all super excited. The reveal was really good. You can tell it was genuine. She unfortunately didn't move on last year, so I believe this is her first time getting to compete in Vegas. It's gonna be really cool to see. I think it's gonna be really cool to see her. I want to see how she did. But yeah, she got to the bouncing spider faster than Grace did, so she's moving on. Some final fast forwards. RJ Roman failed the spider trap. Unfortunately, the whole water thing rearing its ugly head. Tyler Gillette cleared the course, and Caleb Bergstrom failed up for grabs, but he is moving on with his sister, making them the first brother-sister duo to reach Midoriyama. And finally, they had Drew Dreshel. Now, Drew, I gotta mention this. So, multiple times throughout the episode, they were advertising Drew, saying, will Drew achieve the trifecta, which is the Mega Wall, the Speed Pass, and the Safety Pass? Now, I just want to say, so next week is Oklahoma City, correct? Daniel Gill, in that episode, achieved both the Mega Wall and the Speed Pass. So, they should, hopefully, give him the same promotion for that. Otherwise, kind of a bad. Let me put it this way: if Daniel Gill doesn't get the same, can Daniel Gill also get the trifecta that Drew Dreshel got? It kind of gives away whether or not Daniel Gill wins the Safety Pass. I'm just saying that because of how much they promoted Drew, they have to do the same for Daniel Gill, because Daniel Gill, he got the first two, just like Drew did in the qualifier. So they got to give him that promotion. Even if he fails, they got to give him the promotion. I'll just say that. Drew, I mean, what else is there to say? I said that the back half is a speed course, and he proved it. He looked good on the course. This is, I believe, the first time they actually showed the clock in the whole episode. I will say this every single time. They need to show the clock. It is so frustrating not seeing the clock. Also, in this case, they showed it compared to Kevin's time, who at the time was the fastest time still, and not Tyler's time, who was at that time the second fastest. And so it kind of gives away that Drew's going to beat Kevin, because it's like, in order to get the power tower, you have to beat Tyler. Whatever. It's just, yeah, okay. Drew beat the course. He did it with like, well over a minute faster than Kevin. He looked great. Drew is one of the best ninjas on the show by far, and he showed it. And then we got to the power tower, and I'm not gonna lie, I was pulling for Kevin. I just thought it'd be really cool to see Kevin win and get that safety pass. Also, as I mentioned with LA compared to LA, the power tower did change slightly. They now start at the top of the power tower next to their buzzers, and they have to go down a rope to the first handhold. But like I said, I was really hoping for Kevin, but unfortunately, it wasn't even close. Kevin went for a swinging strategy. Unfortunately, that was just way too slow. Drew was basically doing, boom, 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 boom. Barely any movement in the holds. He just had a big lead on Kevin, and he finished first, and he won the safety pass. So, Kevin gave it his best shot. He ended up finishing the course anyway, but in the end, Drew won the safety pass. He has the ability to fail stage 1 or stage 2 in Vegas and get a redo. Now, last year, that didn't happen. He didn't need it. But 2 years ago, he did fail stage 2. So anything's possible. Anything's possible. We'll have to see. Odds are with this safety net, we will see him in stage 3, unless something goes horribly wrong for him. That's my feeling. But yeah, overall, a lot better episode than the qualifiers. Some enjoyable stuff. I still maintain get rid of the bouncing spider. I'm not impressed with Fallout. I would much prefer like some actual spinning discs instead of like the weird hodgepodge obstacle. But let's go through some statistics. So by my count, there were 34 competitors on the course. We saw 11 full runs, 1 run showed mid-progress, 17 fast forwards, and by my math, that means 5 cut runs. Although, as I alluded to mid talking here, I realized that one of the names that I listed as one of the 5 cut runs wasn't actually cut. So I only got 4 of the cut names, unfortunately, on this list. So, but I'll make sure everyone still gets their due for the full results. So here's the obstacle breakdown. We had no one fail the shrinking steps, 2 failed off the hook, 6 failed block run, 2 failed the bouncing spider, 3 failed the Ferris wheel, 1 warped wall fail, no salmon ladder fails, 11 up for grab fails, 1 fallout fail, 3 spider trap fails, thanks to assistance from water, and 5 course completions. Everyone, and here's a list of everyone who failed to reach Vegas for the full results. We got Tyrone Poole and Kirili Rebkovitz, who failed off the hook, Ben Wilson, who got cut, Eddie Stewart, Neil Craver, John DeLulo, Emery Durham, and Alyssa Barcelona, who failed block run, Grace Sims, who failed the bouncing spider, Chad Horn and Chris Howard, who got cut, and both of those people failed the Ferris wheel. Glenn Davis failed the warped wall. Rochambeau Dulcine, who got cut. Travis Rust, Ruyori, Josiah Singleton, Jordan Hatton, Devin Harrison, and Lucas Gomez, who got cut, which is like, what the heck? How do you not show Lucas both times? Like, he has a successful YouTube channel now. Yeah, I'm disappointed that he got cut both times. Lucas is a good guy. Anyway, those group of people all failed up for grabs and sadly did not move on to Vegas. I was really hoping to see him move on. I'm sure he'll have some details of how his run went on his YouTube channel, if it's not up by the time you are watching this. And finally, we're going to go through our top people moving on to Las Vegas from the Atlanta Regional. So we start things off with Drew Dressel, who had the speed pass, meaning his run technically doesn't count, even though he finished in first place. And he is also the safety pass winner. And then followed him with Kevin Carbone, Tyler Gillette, Britt Sims, and Ryan Stratis. All 5 of those people are the people who cleared the course. And then you had RJ Roman, Jodie Freedman, and Kenny Nimitalo, who all failed the spider trap. Caleb Aurora, who failed Fallout, and Caleb Bergstrom, Ronald Washington, Travis Rosen, and Casey Suhaki, who all failed up for grabs. And finally, your 2 women moving on to Vegas are Caitlin Bergstrom, who failed the Ferris Wheel, and Jessica Clayton, who failed the Bouncing Spider. And that's everything for the Atlanta Finals. Overall, a more enjoyable episode than the qualifiers. Had some cool stuff, still a few misgivings, but some of that was just sort of natural because of the continuation of the course from last year, last episode. And overall, yeah, so far, finals 2 for 2 for good episodes. But tell me what you thought about the episode. I got a poll. Make sure you answer the poll. And let me know in the comments what you thought. And hey, if you want to see more reviews, make sure you subscribe to know exactly when they first go up. I'll see you next week for Oklahoma City, where we'll see if Daniel Gill can also achieve the trifecta. Hopefully they promote it. Otherwise, it's going to be very obvious that he fails. With that said, thank you all very much for watching. I'll see you next time.